Holmes Jr. So, little quick background on me. You know, I grew up in Fort Pierce, Florida. Single mother household, low income, drug addicted father, alcoholic, all that stuff. Very abusive, very tough childhood, very lonely. But as a kid, I could see the space shuttle from where I was in Florida. So every time I take off, I'd be 5 years old, 6 years old, like, wow, I want to be an astronaut one day, right? But diagnosed ADHD, dad in and out of jail, you know, abusive step-parents, all that kind of things. You know, you say, man, that's not for me. Started doing good in school. You know, I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, got a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering. It was very, very hard for me. I almost... we're just getting started, so... Almost failed out my first year. I had like a 2.4 GPA, and you needed a 2.5 to stay in the aerospace engineering program, so I almost failed out. I didn't even party. Like, I didn't drink. I could not stop playing basketball. I'm telling you, I would go and I would play 5-on-5 for 6 hours, wouldn't do any of my homework. It was ridiculous. That's when I met my now wife. I don't know where she is. So anyway, I was a terrible student, and I just was faced with that. I wasn't really saved at this time, right? So this is 2011. Felt like my whole life I was about to get sent back to Fort Pierce, that place I finally got away from. And the Lord met me and just grabbed me. You know, 2011, I just felt the weight of all the sin in my life, everything. So I gave my life to Jesus. Nothing has been the same since then. That following year, I had a 4.0, and this is like 2012, so there's a lot. Anyways, the main point is not to put down anybody else's degree, but I am in aerospace engineering, so it's for someone with ADHD, you know, diagnosed with a very, very challenging major. So taking classes some of y'all probably never heard of, calculus 3, differential equations, all this crazy stuff. But I'm just this kid from Fort Pierce. My dad doesn't even have a high school diploma. Like, I don't even know how I'm here, you know? So I get a master's degree in aerospace engineering, and then I get my dream job at NASA. So I think, okay, I cannot go higher than this, right? Like a master's degree in aerospace engineering, and I got a cumulative 4.0 in my master's degree in aerospace engineering. So that was pretty crazy. I spent 2.5 years at NASA at Johnson Space Center. So Houston, we got a problem. That was where I was at, Houston, Texas. Grateful to say I actually worked on something that took astronauts to space. So the Dragon crew capsule made by SpaceX, I was a very small engineer amongst many other engineers working on that amazing thing. Again, dream is to be an astronaut. That's like, I'm getting there, right? I'm so close. Like, I worked on something that took astronauts to space and still, you know, does to this day. That's a job, I was a civil servant. That's a job that you just ride out, you know? NASA, like, why would you leave that? But God said, no. You're gonna quit your job and you're gonna go to Ohio State and get a Ph.D. in aerospace engineering. I'm like, that don't make a whole lot of sense. Almost everybody in my entire life told me I was crazy. They were like, dude, you have a civil servant. I was a government employee. They can't even fire you. I can literally barely do my job. You hear about government employees. I can barely do my job for like 40 years and get a good salary, work on some cool stuff, whatever. Like, my life would be cool, you know? But no, PhD, in one of the hardest things you could possibly get a PhD in. Okay, all right. And Ohio State's a good school. Like, it's top 20 in engineering, so it's not been easy. So part of that PhD process is doing a qualification exam first. So you get in, you take your classes, and then you have to take three-hour classes. I had to take fluid dynamics, structural dynamics, in this math theory class that you guys, it's like hieroglyphics. Like, it's just ridiculous. It doesn't even make any sense. But somehow I got through 2 of those, but I failed. I failed one, and if you fail one, you have to retake them all. And each exam is a 3-hour exam. And each exam, you have to study like 4 or 5 courses worth of undergraduate material, and you need to exhibit a expert level understanding in each one of those, right? So it's very subjective, right? They look at your test and they go, nah, he doesn't really understand it as well as we want him to. You got to retake it. So I had to retake it, which means, on top of doing research and classes, I had to study again a whole another year for it. But I'm like, okay, I'm past this. I passed them. Okay, I'm on to the next step. So I've been doing research the last few years. By God's grace, I was going down to Florida every summer to work with the Munitions Directorate at the Air Force Research Lab in Eglin, Florida. Amazing opportunity. And so I'm doing all this amazing research. And then the next big milestone is your Candidacy Exam, which is essentially like, hey, this is all the research I've been doing. This is all the cool stuff I've learned. Because to get a Ph.D., it's not like a master's degree. A master's degree, you do coursework, you're good. Ph.D., coursework, it doesn't even really matter. The Ph.D. is all about the research you do. You have to make a discovery in your field that no one knew before, right? And so, like I said, this is aerospace engineering. That's not an easy task to do. It's a very old industry. So the stuff that's left to figure out is the really hard stuff. If I would have got it like 50 years ago, the stuff that I use every day is like stuff they discovered, but it's like commonplace in my life, right? But anyway, so I go on and take this exam and I failed it. It was a 2-hour oral exam with 5 professors, and they're trying to wreck you. They're like, why did you use this method? Why did you do this? What does this mean? What does this equation mean? Explain this term. And it's just like, I was getting destroyed. And I left it, and I went and I sat in my car on campus, and I cried for maybe 2 hours. I just couldn't stop crying. Because normally when you fail, you're done for the PhD. You cannot normally retake the Candidacy Exam. It's normally a one shot and done. But my advisor called me back and he said, I told them I want you to take it again. A little background on this, my advisor is a very challenging guy. So for this guy to give me a second chance, this is God. This guy has not been in my corner. He has not he told me, there's so many testimonies in this because I had to beg him to let me into Ohio State. He did not want to take me on, but he's the only professor that was doing the thing that I wanted to do. So he said many times, you could probably get a PhD with a lot of professors, but you can't get one with me. That's what he told me many times. So the fact that he said, I think you can do this, I've been praying for him. This is my wife pushing me to pray for him because I have not wanted to pray for him. But I prayed for him for years. And, I believe that God had softened his heart, over the years. So painful enough, on top of all the research I'm doing, on top of being a husband, all these things I got going on, now I have to do all of that, but I have to study again for a year with no guarantee that I'm going to pass this test. And you do not get, if you get a retake, that's it. There is no extra retake. That's it. So, I got a job offer that starts in January that I accepted with the Air Force Research Lab, contingent on the PhD and passing this Candidacy Exam. Bought a house with my wife, contingent on the salary that they're going to offer me. So I'm walking into this second PhD Candidacy Exam. I said this to someone, it's not often you have do or die. A lot of times, a lot of us have stress, but it's if you mess up, you'll probably be okay. If I mess this up, it really felt like everything was going to crumble that God has been building. But, it's I truly believe that the house and that job were the signs that he was going to be with me. And so when I should have had the most anxiety in my life, I was so peaceful and so calm in that exam. And the funny thing is I studied I don't know, I went next level. I was literally just studying nonstop. I wasn't going to people's events. I was just locked in, and they didn't even ask me the questions that I studied. And that's the other testimony, is he really was there with me. Because I'm okay, yeah, I see where he's going with this question. Please ask me this. Oh, I'll knock this out. Nah, he went this other direction. I'm I don't really know this answer. I'm just going to trust God. I'm going to start talking. And then I was yeah, and there's and normally the exam is really awkward because they just sit there and they stare at you because they're not supposed to give you any confirmation that you're giving them the right answer, because it's all about having confidence, being an expert, knowing the answer, right? So normally they just sit there and just go, all right, I don't have any more questions, and you just have no idea. You might have just said the dumbest thing ever, or it was brilliant. You don't know. But they started telling me this time, like, yep, that's the right answer. And I'm like, what? You know, they're not supposed to do that. But anyways, it helped my confidence for sure. And my advisor came back. Another small testimony is that a particular person on my committee member was the one that really kind of tanked my first exam. Not even my advisor, this is another professor. He really likes to fail students. Like, that's his favorite thing to do. These guys are crazy. I don't know what's wrong with them. They need Jesus, right? Most of them do. But he's notorious for failing people, and like almost everyone that takes the exam with him, he'll either not pass them or barely. Like, he's never happy. He's always like, nah, okay, like I'll let them pass, but they didn't do a good job. So there was an opportunity in my heart to pray that something would happen, that he couldn't be on the exam. There was a part of me that wanted to pray for an easier exam. But I heard once, I think it was John F. Kennedy, said, don't pray for easy times, pray to be stronger men. Yeah. Right? So I didn't pray. I didn't pray for an easier test, and I did not get an easier test. That test was way harder than the first one, right? But my advisor came to me, he said, Dr. said, you did a great job. And he never says that. And if he says that, it means you did a good job. So, it's like Jesus in the garden. He said, if you could take this cup, but nevertheless, let your will be done. He chose the harder road, and he got more glory because he chose the harder road. So, don't always pray for the easier path. Pray that God will make you into the one that can get through that tough path, right? Because what I've learned as someone who has, by God's grace, accomplished a lot of goals I've set in my life, I haven't even told you about the fact that multiple times in my life, I wasn't even able to walk. And I ran a marathon recently, right? Like, there's so many things that God has done. And if he calls you to something, like he really is going to do it. He really is faithful to finish. Yeah. And I need this Ph.D. if I want to be an astronaut. Like, it's the guys that you go up against, guys and girls you go up against to become an astronaut, I mean, they're spectacular. You can't just go in there with just a master's degree. Like, you can't go in there with just a bachelor's, whatever. Like, you have to, Ph.D., and that's how I'm trying to do an Ironman, and I'm trying to do all this. Like, you got to have a lot. Because they only pick 8 people, every 8 years or something, But, so now I'm a Ph.D. candidate, which means that I just got to finish my work, and I'll have a Ph.D. in aerospace engineering. If God put that dream in your heart, that don't get scared of it. I've tried to run away from this so many times. I still don't feel qualified enough to be an astronaut, but I truly believe that's what he wants me to do. Because, a lot of people get sent to India, a lot of people get sent. When you're in academia, it's just atheists. And they're not even just casual atheists. They will make fun of you if they find out that you believe in Christ. My advisor thinks it's lame, my coworkers think it's lame. They try to make fun of me sometimes. But, there's one that will listen to me. And we've been doing a little bit of apologetics, trying to debunk some of the, evolution stuff. And he'll listen to me, he's like, wow, I've never heard anybody explain it that way. So there are mission fields all over the place. I just want to say, don't give up on the dream that God gave you, no matter how hard it is. Whatever that is. Because believe me, on paper, 2011, none of y'all would have ever said, this is where this guy's going. Last thing, I swear. Okay. Just to put this into picture how much of a mess I was before I got saved in 2011, my engineering teacher that I had for 4 years in high school, I was notorious for getting the best grade on the exam, but not doing the homework, getting sent out all the time, getting in trouble. He invited me back after I was working at NASA to basically talk to his students, the engineering students. And the way that he introduced me every time was, yeah, John, I didn't even think he was going to graduate high school, to be honest with you. I thought the best I could hope for John, he said this, I had to listen to him say this 6 periods in a row. It kind of Dang, man, come on. 6 periods in a row, he said this every time. I thought the best I could hope for John was that he would work at the Walmart distribution center and live in government subsidized housing. That's what he thought, but he was like, I was wrong. And the amazing thing is, he told me after I came and I spoke to those students that he had a D average student for the last 3 years. And it was his senior year. And he said, the 3 or 4 months after I came and spoke at the beginning of the year, he said he's gotten an A on every single thing. I said, what's going on with you? He said, you know, when John came and spoke and told me about his background, you know, I thought, man, someone like me could do it too. So God is using these testimonies to impact, right? Like, I've had a very challenging life. I truly believe I have. And the one thing that God has always told me that your life isn't for you, right? And so it's so true. And you know, he's not here, but Xavier, when he gave his testimony about how he wanted to walk away from football and stuff, I mean, his testimony, you know, it gave me fuel to take the exam again, you know. And I remember when Aaron prayed for me, that was really important. My wife has been so supportive, you know, Ashley, like all my friends, Josh. Like, this isn't just my victory. I really believe that this is all of y'all's victory. Everyone that's ever prayed for me. I mean, I just had a conversation with someone the other day and trying to remind them, like, look, man, I get it. You want to be the alpha male, put your head down, but I'm like, we go so much farther when we have friends and community, mentors. So I will never turn my back on any of y'all. Like, I love all you, Pastor Terry, Elder Thomas, you know, Elder Brandon, Elder Payne, all, like, literally, I could sit here for an hour and tell you all the people that are a part of this. And I haven't even gotten a Ph.D. yet. So there's more testimonies coming. So I love y'all.